You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. It's my pleasure, sadly for the last time in this year, 2021, to have in the studio Lou from Wardini Books. How you going, Lou?
Very well. You scared me a little bit then. This year.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. No, good to see you. Can you believe it? As we record this program, just one day left to go in 2021, and it's probably been a year that most people would rather leave behind. But before we get into the books, what was the highlight for 2021? Was there a highlight, or was it?
I don't know, really. You put me on the spot, Ken. Yeah. I don't know. It's just been, a very strange year for everybody,
hasn't it?
It's been a blur,
really, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
And you think, oh, well, it's never going to win, but then it's ended and another one's
the year of cancelled events.
Yes, it was indeed.
And some that got through by the skin of the teeth.
And did you have a good Christmas?
Lovely, yeah.
Good to hear that you've had a bit of R&R, recharging the batteries. Okay, let's get down to business. Got 3 more fabulous books, and the first one I'm going to talk about is The Last Guests.
The Last Guests by J.P. Pomare. Can you tell?
It looks like a horror story, maybe.
Well, yeah, it's got the sort of spooky setting in the woods, Could be an idyllic lake house, or it could be a house of nightmares. So you have Lena and Kane, and we're in New Zealand, and this is around Rotorua Lakes, Tarawera actually, and they have a lake house, which is Lena's not heritage, what do you call it? Inheritance from her grandparents. And Kane is ex-New Zealand SAS, but he's been injured out. He's had a terrible time in Afghanistan. And they're a young couple, and they've got friends in similar demographics. So another soldier that Kane fought with, and his wife. But he's doing really well, the other one, and Kane is not doing very well at all. And they are struggling to stay afloat, and they're thinking, how are we going to make some money? And Kane says, well, we could turn the lake house, because they live in Auckland and this is their sort of secondary residence, we could turn that into an Airbnb sort of thing. They call it We Stay In Here, and I don't know if that's a real thing or it's something that is made up. And Lena's really but that's my sort of childhood home. There are all sorts of memories in there. I don't know if I want people staying. What if they wreck it? What if they do this? So they're having this conversation, and he's really adamant, no, it's a good way to make money. And she suspects his motives, and then we figure out early on that she's also got something else going on. She's a paramedic, and she says, yes, see you, honey, I'm off on my shift, but she's not. She's got this little dress stuck in her bag, and she goes off to meet this guy, and you're like, well, what's going on there then?
The twist. That's
the first twist, and then, boy, does she get herself into some deep schmozzle. So it's and then basically as well, at the beginning, you've also got this, what's it called, Pinnacle or something, where you can go on the dark web, and people have put cameras in Airbnbs and We Stays and stuff, and they spy on you while you're just pootling around, not realising that someone,
really?
It's in the bathroom, it's in the bedroom, so there's that going on. There's them renting out this place, and there's what the hell is Lena up to when she's off to meet some bloke in a pub in downtown Auckland. And you are just suspicious of everybody the whole time, and it's really nicely plotted and paced, but kind of creepy.
So if you had to define it, is it a thriller, is it a romance novel, or is it a bit of everything?
It's a thriller, really, yeah. There's not a great deal of romance in there, I wouldn't say. Yeah, it's very twisty-turny, and you're constantly wondering, okay, well, I thought this about you, but is that what's really going on with you, and what's cracked off in Lena's past? She's not squeaky clean, and she's not, she's quite damaged, yeah.
Is it a page-turner?
Yeah, very much so. You kind of really want to know what's going off with these people.
Tell us about Will.
Will Smith.
Yeah.
Isn't that a cool cover?
It just looks like him too. What a great drawing or painting of him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always been quite the admirer of Will Smith. I've always liked his sort of cheeky persona.
Great actor.
Yeah, really good actor. And I was very excited to read this book. And I will say right from the beginning, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was fascinated all the way through. I don't like him so much now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Is it an autobiography?
It's an autobiography, and it's completely... Well, it feels like it's a warts and all autobiography, but his perspective on life is just quite out there. So he grew up in Philadelphia. You can probably do that rap if you want to. And it was a fair... it wasn't in a terribly poor area of town or anything like that, but there was violence in the home. His dad was quite very strict with the kids. It was him. There was an older brother, I think, from a previous relationship, and his twin brother and sister. and Dad was very violent to the mother. And, you know, there were difficulties in the home, but his dad taught him, you know, 99% is the same as 0%, that kind of attitude. And so that's how he grew up, and the only way that he could cope with that was to become the little performer, you know. So he was a very fearful, nervous child, but if he could keep dad laughing, then that would be okay. Everything would be okay. Yeah. So that's sort of the origin story for how Will Smith became the class clown and the fool and that kind of thing. So he grows up, and then he meets Jazzy Jeff, and they have this amazing music career, and then he decides that he's going to become... Well, he meets Quincy Jones, and they do the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and then he decides he's going to be the number 1 movie actor in the world, and this is his only goal. And you just watch as it ruins all of his relationships, and his ego grows and grows and grows. And he does acknowledge that, like, you know, he marries Jada Pinkett, and they have their life together, and you can just see... Oh, and she reacted like this, and I'm not bloody surprised she reacted like that. So he does. So there is all the sort of wild partying and self-destructive behaviour and all that going on in it, and he's just quite a complex person.
So, at what point were you put off him when he made that decision? I'm going to be the number 1 actor in the world.
Yeah, you can see all that, but you know, and the way that he sort of talks about how amazing he is. Well, yeah, you are amazing, and he knows it, and there's nothing wrong about knowing it, but just how he was just so single-minded, and like when he played Muhammad Ali, which I haven't seen that film. Have you seen that?
No.
I think I'd quite like to now, but you know how it just took over his complete life, you know, to the detriment of everybody around him. And yeah, I think he's been quite a selfish person, really. Yeah, so it was great. It was very illuminating and absolutely fascinating. But I think to be as successful as you are, clearly you pay a price, and everybody around you pays a price.
I often wonder how, as on the side, that even with local actors, how do you switch off from being that personality, that the on-screen personality or the record personality? How to become regular old Lou, for instance, you know? Because I know you're
this is
famous.
what you get, mate. This is it. But there is a scene in this book where his whole life just falls apart at some point, and he goes to this particular therapist, and he's got to stop being this Will Smith all the time, you know, and he would shake everybody's hands, and he would do every autograph, and he would be on the whole time. And he's just got 10 minutes to go to the gym before he's got this other commitment. And he's like, oh, well, great, I can just do this and reset my head. And some guy comes in and says, oh, my God, can you sign this for my brother? He loves you. And he goes, no, sorry, I'm just in the gym, you know. And he's like, but please, you know, he's got Down syndrome and he's this, and he's your biggest fan. And he just goes, no. And the guy goes, why? And he says, because I don't want to. And then he goes back and sobs in his hotel room because he can't believe that he's done that. So there are some quite gorgeous bits like that.
We were just talking about that this morning. Imagine if you were the Beatles in the heady day, you couldn't even go to the dairy.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Will Smith.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another thing where, sorry, we're going to be a bit long, aren't we? But there's another bit where, again, life's imploded, the same implosion, and he goes to stay with a friend in, where are they now? Jamaica, I think he goes to, or somewhere. I can't remember. I think that's wrong, but never mind. Somewhere. And his mate's like, he says, you're going to need some security for me. You know, I am Will Smith. Yeah. and the guy goes, oh, it'll be fine, mate. You know, we're all really chill over here. You know, and he steps off the plane, and they are swamped with people. And his mate's like, oh, my God. Yeah.
Back to the drawing board on that one.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a fascinating read.
Absolutely fascinating.
Who's going to be? Who's going to like that book? Is it a follower of Will Smith, or is it just a good read for anyone?
I think it's just a good read, just because everyone knows who he is.
Yeah.
It's a real insight into how sort of Hollywood works, how the music business works, and just quite the sort of psychological insight into a very interesting character. He's as a woman reading it, I found it quite interesting. I think his attitudes towards half the population are odd.
So what would he have to do? Get back in your good books?
Oh, I don't know. Doesn't matter. I don't think it's going to bother him, Ken, do you?
No, he'd probably, who?
Yeah, but as a book, fabulous.
Great book, yeah. Okay. And tell us about 56 Days.
It's not quite out yet. It's supposed to be out on the 5th of January. We'll see if it turns up in time. So that is not the real cover. That will be the cover.
Oh, yeah.
So this is by Catherine Ryan Howard, and she wrote a book called The Nothing Man, which I think we've reviewed on this show before. So she's a novelist, and this book is set in Dublin, and it's just as we go into the first lockdown of the coronavirus. And the author's note at the back says, all the authors said they would never write a story set in lockdown because nobody wants to hear about it. She said, but when I was in lockdown in Dublin, all by myself, which was quite nice because she says she's a card-carrying introvert, she had this brilliant idea. So what happens is you've got a young man and a young woman in their 20s, I think, late 20s, and they kind of meet by accident in a supermarket just as stories of this plague are going around, you know, and everyone's a bit nervous. And they bump into each other and they have a conversation. And then they go for a drink and they start to, date, I suppose, is what you'd call it. And then the powers that be in Ireland say we're going to go into a 2-week lockdown. And then they're faced with this decision. We've only known each other for 3 weeks. And she goes and moves in with him for the lockdown. But we also know right from the beginning that 56 days later, somebody's going to be dead in that apartment and stinking and rotting. And what the hell leads up to that? So it is ostensibly a murder mystery, but there's far more to it than that. It's just incredible, and I couldn't put it down, really. I read it in a couple of days.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's 10?
Clara and Oliver, that's their names. Yeah, Chiara, sorry. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
Wow.
For I cannot actually tell you much more because she's up to something, is she? He's up to something, is he? Who's he? What the hell is going on? Why are they not telling each other all of these things? You know, and then you'll get a chapter from his perspective that you've already had from hers, and you're like, what? Yes, those same things happened, but they're completely different perspectives.
Is the whole book based around just those two people in lockdown?
Pretty much, but there are all these peripheral characters because something's gone on with Oliver in the deep past that you find out pretty early on, but I won't tell you what it is because I think it's quite fascinating when, he's kind of hiding, put it that way. And neither of them knows anybody else in Dublin either.
Wow.
So they were completely isolated.
Great holiday reading.
Brilliant.
Can't wait for the movie.
It's got that feel to it that it would make a really good movie, I think.
We were just talking before we came to air about something that I should look at on Netflix. But have you noticed on Netflix just how many movies there are about viruses and the apocalypse?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They just seem to be popping up now. There's loads of them.
I think they've been around for a while when you think about it. Yeah.
They foretold the future.
Oh, so
It's here.
Yeah, fiction always does that, though. Speculative fiction.
Yes, it is. Good on you, Lou. As always, now, before we let you get back to work, just remind our listeners, we want to come and get any of these fabulous books. Where do we get them?
Wardini books, please. Havelock North and Napier.